Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at this really cool Grand Power Stribog. This is a sweet little subgun, something relatively new to the US market, and I think you guys are going to like it. Stribog is the name of an ancient Slavic god of storm and force. Stribog was responsible not just for foul weather, but also the force in wind and water currents. Kind of cool. That's kind of a cool little tidbit of information you can get right there when you get this thing. It's got some pretty dark meaning to its name. All the controls on the Stribog are completely ambidextrous. That includes the cocking lever, which can be changed out very, very easily by simply retracting it, pulling it out, and put it on the other side. There's no need for any special tools to disassemble this thing to make it ambidextrous on the charging handle side. The mags that came with this one are 20 rounds apiece. As you can see, they're clear, which allows you to identify exactly how many rounds you have, not only while the magazines are outside the gun, but of course inside the gun. It's a nice thing to know when your actual mag capacity has gotten below an acceptable level when you're shooting. This thing is classified as a pistol. As you notice, I did put a tail hook pistol brace on this thing. This thing has a dual mass slide. This significantly reduces recoil and improves overall behavior of the gun. This design puts the action in front of the your trigger guard area, and usually whenever you're shooting some kind of a carbine, most of your action starts right in here and it goes behind you into your buffer tube. This buffer tube is hollow. There is no buffer, there's no buffer spring, buffer tube, or anything in here. All of your action is taking place up front here. And what that does is, even though it may be a perception thing, it keeps all of your felt recoil in front of you. Usually whenever you're shooting a gun, you've got your recoil that if the action is back here, the only point of your body that's really technically absorbing recoil is your shoulder, because it's all behind your wrist, all behind your shooting hand. Well, in this case, with everything being pretty much in front of you, now you're absorbing some of that recoil with your right hand, and if you're holding the gun like I'm holding it right here, up close, because a lot of times these short subguns like this, you're going to want to pull them into your body, then you've got this point of contact, and of course the shoulder, as always, all absorbing a little bit of that felt recoil. So you're going to have a whole lot less of it going back here because it's basically split up three ways. That makes it a whole lot more manageable. It's also going to keep, with that action being up front, it's going to keep the muzzle from being able to rise up very much either. So it's going to be able to shoot really flat. Your follow-up shots are going to be very consistent, and in return, they're going to be very reliable and accurate. You'll notice that you have room for rails. In this case, I've put a Trigicon MRO on it. Plenty of rail space on top of this thing. It's also got a small rail on the bottom side. If you'll notice, I put one of these hand stops on here. The stippling, or the texturing, I should say, on the mag well also makes it very nice for that. You're going to get a little more grip. As you can see, they kind of expect you to put your left hand there, or your support hand there, because they did put that texturing right there, so it's nice to have that right there. Plus the magazine offers you a little bit to hold on to as well. The grip has really nice texturing on it. I like that. It's textured in just the right places. I don't think it's textured too much. It actually looks good as well. If we're going to go for looks here, that's very, very nice. One thing that I really liked about this gun, and it was impressive to me, a lot of mass-produced guns out there, you're talking about assembly line guns, and we're not going to name any names, but very popular brands out there are manufactured on an assembly line. Basically, you have a 55-gallon drum of parts, and I might be exaggerating a little bit. There may be a bin of parts, but let's just say there's a big pile of parts. Let's say there's a bunch of barrels that are just sitting in a pile, and as you go down the assembly line, you just grab one and you stick it in there. The thing that impressed me about the Stribog is that so many of the key parts on this thing are actually serialized. So clearly every part was made to be on this gun together. Now, I'm not saying it was hand fit like a 1911, but what I am saying is there wasn't this huge vat of just mass-produced parts that have really odd specs and dimensions to them that are just slammed together and they expect your gun to run right. Clearly this particular gun, with all of the serialized parts being identical, it was meant to be made as the gun, as this particular model. You can see it also has a threaded barrel. That's going to come in very handy probably tomorrow for me, because I will be shooting this thing with a suppressor. Really looking forward to that. One of the cool things about this thing is the sights. This is neat. I'm kind of surprised that nobody else has come up with this before. Maybe somebody has. Maybe I just haven't seen it before. But these sights, yeah, you do have flip-up sights in the front. With these sights down, now, I've used these one time before I put this Trigicon MRO on. You actually have sights that are built into the folded down portion of your sights. In the front, you have a very small little bar right there. In the back, you have your spot right here to be able to spot that bar in the front. That's actually pretty cool because you can make this thing even more profile. Now, granted, these sights are not going to get in the way of much. They sit really, really low, and I like the way this front post is protected. Good looking little sights on this thing to begin with when they are flipped up. But it's nice that if you happen to, let's say you have forgotten to flip them up, or let's say my red dot here goes out on me and I want to hurry up and disassemble this thing. Let's say I'm in a high stress situation. If these things are already laying down, I've got at least a backup set of sights, if you will, on this thing. And that's pretty cool. Now, I will say this also, and I want you guys to listen to this. Listen how positive those detents are. These things here, that's well made. I don't care who you are. You get one of these things and you flip these sights up. This gun was not going over by a gunsmith from Grand Power before it was sent to me. I bought this thing off the shelf. So the fact that this thing has such minute detail and just fine things that are tended to properly tells me that a lot of tender loving care goes into these things. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the price on these things? You're going to get these things anywhere between $600, $700, a little bit over $700. That's right. You're going to get a sub gun in 9mm. I know it doesn't take Glock magazines, but you're going to get a sub gun in 9mm that you can put your pistol brace on. You can put your optics on top of it. You can really deck this thing out. It comes looking good already, and it's made with this aircraft aluminum that's very, very well made. You're talking about, let's say, MP5s or whatever they call the ones that are not the actual MP5, SP5s maybe. Zenith makes some also, I think ZP5s. Of course, SIG has their brand of, I think it's the MPX with the 9mm. All these subguns out there that take 9mm, you're going to pay at least $1,200 to $1,300 whenever you go buy one. You can get a Grand Power Stribog for $750. That's a heck of a deal. Whenever you shoot one of these things, you're going to see what I'm talking about. This is a very well-made gun. Again, we're not talking about an assembly line gun. So let's take this thing out and burn some rounds out of it. I want to show you how it shoots. Okay, guys, this thing's going to come with two 20-round magazines, as I said earlier. As always, I've loaded with my Armscore ammunition. I want to see how this cycles. You know, we're talking about, let's see, 115 grain Armscore 9mm ammunition. Should work fine. I don't think there's any preference. You know, some guns will actually prefer that you put something in it. I didn't read any specific specs on that. All right, here we go. I'm about 70 yards over here. I've got a piece of steel sitting out there. Yeah, let me see if I have, it seems like my MRO is dialed in okay. I dialed it in last week. Very nice. Trigger feels good. Very little reset on this thing. In fact, when this thing resets, it's in the ready position. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get a little bit closer here. When this thing resets, reset, and right here, notice no take up. Here we go, reset. Look at the take up, none. I'm immediately ready to shoot again. I like that. That's impressive to me. Feels really good. The only thing I can say real quick that I just noticed, if I have to pick something negative, it seems like my safety here, I won't say is in an awkward position, but it feels like, and it does protrude a little bit, so it's going to give me room to grab it. I almost feel like my other side, and again, I'm empty here, I almost feel like my other side might be a little bit easier. It is ambidextrous, of course. To take it off as safety might be a little bit easier, just running like that. You know what I mean? Because the position that I'm in here, it puts my thumb up. I almost have to move it back. Either way, I'm going to reposition my finger. It's either going to be my pointer finger or my thumb. Notice our charging handle here. If I keep my finger up here, let me drop it right below that rail. Notice this thing move. That would have hurt my thumb. You see what I mean? Watch the charging handle again. I'm shooting it directly into the ground right in front of my target. See how that thing moves? Again, if I keep my thumb, if I'm back here where this texturing is on the mag well, I think I'm going to be okay because I'm holding it and my thumb, in fact, let me see if my thumb if I even feel anything where it's planted at right there. No, I don't even feel it. So it's not coming all the way back. It's not reciprocating all the way back into this notch back here. So that's a good thing. That means that if I can grab it right here, I'm going to be comfortable, even if it is a high stress situation. I'm still going to have pretty quick access to this thing without worrying about, you know, making the end of my thumb look a little funny. So that's kind of cool. Remember, you guys can move this thing to this side also. The charging handle can come over here, so you can't take this thing out. You simply pull this thing all the way back whenever you're taking the gun apart, and it slides your bolt further back, and when it gets all the way to the back in this notch, it just pulls right out and you simply bring it to the other side. I prefer the left side charging simply because it allows me to keep my, my main hand on my gun. My strong hand is actually staying right here all the time, so I'm right at my trigger. I'm not having to reposition myself. I'd much rather have to be able to do this to clear around than to do this, because then I'm taking my hand off of my grip and my trigger and having to reposition that. So I like the fact that I don't have to break my grip here. Guys, I ain't done. This thing's a lot of fun to shoot. I'm gonna grab me some more of my arm square ammunition. This Stribog by Grand Power, man, this is a lot of fun. If you prefer and like the whole sub-gun movement that's happening out there, if you're a PCC carbine guy in the USPSA competition shooting, you're going to probably want to get your hands on one of these. Again, I like the fact that it keeps that muzzle down low whenever you're shooting it, so it's going to allow for you much more accurate and quicker follow-up shots. So you're going to like the fact that that action is up front. I don't see any disadvantages yet to that action up front. I know there's always a give and take whenever you have something that's a benefit somewhere. Usually you lose something somewhere else. I haven't seen that. God of Force and Wind, or whatever it is, what a pretty cool name. Stribog is kind of cool. May have to make a t-shirt with that or something, but this thing's a lot of fun to shoot. If you get a chance to shoot one, definitely try it out. I imagine these guys will be coming out with some more stuff, because these things are they're easy to get right now, so get them while you can at the price point that they are, but expect them to go up. And I would imagine the popularity of Grand Power by introducing Stribog to the U.S. market is certainly going to introduce them to certainly new buyers and a whole different buying force out there of people. So that will give Grand Power the funds to make some more guns like this to introduce to the U.S. market. So I'm expecting some pretty cool things from these guys in the future. We'll see you guys next time. Remember, shoot straight and be safe.